Welcome, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Caribbean Talks. I am your host, Latoya Roberts-Thomas, a communications consultant by profession and definitely an advocate for all things Caribbean. Thanks to all who have been joining the episodes so far. We are on episode number 7 today out of this 10-part online series that focuses on talking about things in the Caribbean. This 10-part online show encourages Caribbean dialogue, where we continue to speak about music, lifestyle, health, entertainment, fashion, and other conversations that embraces everything that is unique to the Caribbean. Here at Caribbean Talks, we seek to advocate for the diaspora and conversations to the world about the things that affect us in the region. So today we are going to be focusing on one of my favorite topics, travel, 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 and more travel. Joining us for the discussion is Ms. Jayme Hoyte, a travel enthusiast and founder of Hello Beautiful World, which is an online travel blog/magazine. But before we bring Jayme on this conversation, let's take some time to acknowledge our sponsors. Caribbean Insight is an online platform that focuses on Caribbean lifestyle by providing information on current affairs and lifestyle issues and political developments around the region. You can visit their website at www.mycaribbeaninsight.com. LRT's Media and Business Solutions, empowering businesses and providing people's lives with transformative solutions, especially to our clients in the Global South. And we also have A.D. Romeo and Associates Consultancy, fostering sustainable development through innovative services worldwide. So I'm encouraging you to definitely join the live stream, share it with your friends and your networks all over the region. Follow us on Caribbean Insight Facebook page. Like, share, comment. Definitely get involved in today's conversation. Viewers, you are also encouraged to put your questions or comments in the live, and we will definitely try to address them during today's show. So I'm excited to talk about travel. Are you? Today, we're definitely focusing on traveling in the Caribbean. And I will first like to introduce a short bio about our speaker. Ms. Jayme Hoyte is a travel enthusiast who has traveled to more than 25 countries. Whoa, she's definitely been all around the world. Her background is in economics and global studies, with experience in market research. Ms. Hoyte has developed her own online travel and lifestyle blog called Hello Beautiful World. Very interesting topic there, right? And her work and impact are continuously recognized by many organizations. She has been named Woman of the Year in 2002 by the DMZ, along with other influential women. So Jayme, I would like to welcome you to the show. We're about to talk about travel with Jayme Hoyte. How are you today, Jayme?
Hello. I am fine. How are you, Latoya?
I am doing great today because we are talking about travel. Definitely, and a very exciting topic, especially we're coming to the end of year, so persons maybe have plans. We'll get a little bit more into that. But first, Jayme, tell me, when was the first time you traveled and where did you go?
Oh, you're taking me back, way back. But the very first time I traveled, so let me just give a little background here. I came from very humble beginnings. So travel was only a thing of, dream and fantasy. We never thought that I would have been able to travel as many countries I've traveled so far. So I've always dreamed about being an air hostess. I've never pursued it in my adult age, but it was always, lovely to see the air hostess coming in with their scarf and their trolley dragging, so I always wanted to be that. But the very first time I traveled would have been probably around 2010, 29 or 10, where there was an inter-campus sports game. I was cheerleading for the UE cheerleading team, and they had an inter-campus sports at the KFL campus in Barbados. And that was the very, very first time I traveled, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. Until this day, I've never stopped traveling, never stopped traveling. I think there's so much more outside of what you know within your country, cultures, experiences, food, music, diversity. So it was an amazing thing to experience that, and I continually want to experience that.
Nice, very interesting experience. The first time I traveled, definitely I was a bit younger. I remember I was in secondary school and I traveled as part of a school tour, and I was a part of the 4-H club, and we went to Barbados for a project, and that was really interesting. I agree, it definitely opens your mind to so much opportunities and cultures, and you get to compare things in my small little island and this small little island, and it's a wonderful experience. So I appreciate that. So maybe that seed was planted since then. And then how did you develop Hello Beautiful World?
Right. So Hello Beautiful World, was created out of the love for travel, genuinely. So it is a platform, developed for female travelers traversing the world. And the intention with the platform is, to blog about tips and strategies based on my own travel experience, so that others can benefit from, these strategies and decide on where they want to travel next. So we initially started off with a magazine, and then we went into blogging. We have since stopped the production of the magazine, but the blog is definitely open, so you all can check out that blog, where to travel, how to travel, traveling on a budget, different things, you'd want to know before you actually take that trip.
That's important, to have an authentic travel blog that speaks to women and also speaks to probably Caribbean travelers, to give us tips and advice. Because sometimes you see so many people doing things out there and you wonder, coming from a small island, if you could travel too and what your travel experience would be like. I know sometimes it's really good to segment your audience. So writing for female writers that travel. Also probably writing for Black female women that travel might be another segment.
There's aspect of that as well too.
A good segmented audience. So since you are a travel enthusiast, you must have so many memorable experiences.
I think all are memorable. All.
So you never had a bad travel experience?
Yes, I have had.
Right. So therefore you need to share some of those good experiences and maybe reference one bad one and then tell me what you learned from it.
Okay, definitely. So I would say one of my most memorable travel experience would have to be India. And I say that because India was one of those countries traveling the furthest for the first time. I think it's like around 14 hours to get to India. But apart from that, it's definitely a culture shock. The language barriers there as well. Just seeing how, they operate, how they interact, the amount of people you can see at any given time on the streets, it's different. And just to experience authentic Indian food and cuisine, that was a nice experience. Riding in the different cars, the tuk-tuk, all these different things are really great experiences I had in India. So I would say that is one of my most memorable trip. The other one being Cuba, because Cuba, I always say Cuba is near and dear to my heart as a travel destination. I traveled to Cuba with the International Relations group at UE. We went there for some courses and to see, the different things at Cuba. So it was good to see some of the things we learned in class being actually played out. So you would have learned and read about, the U.S. embargo on Cuba. You'd also learned about, the different regimes that Cuba operates under and seeing that actually played out. I think one of the most beautiful thing about Cuba is the fact that not being influenced by outside culture and they having the ability to preserve their culture. So I always say it's like landing in Cuba is like landing in maybe like a movie set dated back in the 1970s or something like that. You know, it's so beautiful, it's so magical. The different cars, the buildings, the people are very warm. And, you know, I think just that whole experience coming together in one package in Cuba, I think I would always remember that as one of my most memorable experience. I don't know if you could permit me to go on. I have a few
So go
more.
ahead, definitely.
Right. And most recently, I traveled to England and, you know, getting to any other country outside of England in the environments is always good. It's always economical as well. So I did Paris, France, Paris, you know, so that was an interesting travel experience because we boarded at Gatwick and we were supposed to land in Orly International Airport. But because of the rain and stormy weathers, we were circling around the airport for a couple of minutes and we couldn't land. We just couldn't land at that airport. So they decided to take us to the Charles de Gaulle Airport and we landed there in stormy weather, stormy rains. We had to run off the tarmac in the rain to one of the buses that they would drive to the actual airport building, you know. So that was a different experience, and I would say that because it was like we do these things in the Caribbean because no one said anything after the fact. No one was compensated. We were not compensated in any type of way for that experience, and it's just like, you know, they changed the airport on us. We now had to find our way from this airport as opposed to the next airport. So that in itself was an experience. But, you know, as the days progressed in France, you know, we enjoyed it, we loved it, and it was a really good experience overall and after all.
Okay, well, I've been to France, and yes, I went to the Charles Airport. So I didn't have a bad stormy weather experience. So unfortunately for you, at least you were able to recover and still continue with your
Yes.
trip. I do agree with your pick about Cuba. Definitely a lovely country. I do love Havana very much. Very
Yes.
cultural, very down to earth.
Very
People
cultural.
understand what it means to be Cuban, very rich in history, and they could identify themselves, self-identify as Cuban means a lot to them. So I think those were really, really good picks. I'm not too much a fan of India. I have been to India and my experience wasn't the best. Definitely, it was a bit of culture shock. The hygiene was a challenge for me, and I just couldn't adapt that well in India. But still, different places, different experiences, and you learn and you grow from it.
And you adapt, yeah.
So, especially being a Caribbean person, for us here in the Caribbean, where would be your recommended destinations? Because maybe some things just don't fit for Caribbean people.
First up, let's start with how difficult it is to get around in the Caribbean. We all know this. I would think that, you know, with the CSME and CARICOM, you would think that travel would be something that is integrated, but for some reason, for Caribbean nationals, travel is very expensive. On the other end to that, not only it being expensive, sometimes we have to go all the way to Miami or even to Panama to come back to another Caribbean destination. So let's start there. But in terms of where would I recommend, I think Curacao right now, or even summertime, Curacao is a good destination. There are Caribbean Airlines direct flight that you can get just under 3,000 TT dollars, you know, and accommodation and food and everything is, you know, pretty reasonable and affordable in Curacao. So I'll definitely recommend Curacao. It's very scenic, very beautiful. You know, you'll capture some of those amazing pictures that you'd want to capture as well in Curacao. Another place I would recommend is Mexico. Mexico has a lot of tourist activities and tourist sites that you can go. You can either go to Cancun, you can go to Tulum, and various other places. And the costing for ticketing for Mexico is very reasonable as well. Hotel accommodations, you can do all-inclusive resorts easily there in Mexico. So that is another place I'd recommend. I would say, on the far end, Puerto Rico, it's a little bit pricey on the tickets, but however, once you get into the Puerto Rico economy, you can get in, American Airlines have direct flights. I mean, yeah, direct flights, you can get some direct flights, and then you can get maybe a one stop on another island to Puerto Rico. But they have the most competitive economy in Latin America. So you can get luxury hotel stays for as low as 47 US dollars per day, right? I'd also recommend Belize, and on the far end again, I would say Bahamas. Bahamas is known, everything tourism, tourist activities, beaches, Atlantis. It's pretty much reasonable for one of the Caribbean islands. So I will definitely recommend Bahamas as a preferred destination in the Caribbean.
I think you really had some good picks. I definitely love Mexico. Definitely Cancun, Tulum, it's definitely worth it. The all-inclusives are really nice. The food is really lavish, and the people are very very friendly, and the customer service is definitely on point for a tourism destination. And there's a lot to do there. Mexico is really big. You could do so much. You can visit Mexico 3-4 times and still have not seen it all. So there's a lot of activities that you could definitely do in Mexico. Puerto Rico seems very interesting. US-based territory seems interesting. Something that's on your list. A lot of people always want to go to United States of America, but I guess some of the outer territories are worth a visit too. So I think Puerto Rico is a good pick. Bahamas, I think, is definitely a top on most person's list in the Caribbean. Really clear waters, I think, really lovely hotels. It's a bit more pricey than other islands in the region, but I think it's still definitely worth that pick. So we do have a question coming in from social media, and someone is asking, which region in the world do you find yourself going back to more than others? That's the first one.
To be honest, I recently traveled to England, and at first it was definitely a culture shock. I mean, I know we have that British colony thing going on there, but for me, in terms of the economy and the pricing and budgeting and stuff, it's a lot more expensive to live in England, and it scared me a little bit, early on, like the first month I was there. But as I integrated into the economy and see how things are operate and understand how to navigate the systems over there, I think England, and by extension, the Europe is destinations I would definitely, want to venture back to. There's so much I have not done in England, and I think there's so much to do. And I would love to actually go back there and explore some more.
I do agree with that pick. The European region has so much diversity, so much to offer. And I know us within the Caribbean region, we don't need a visa. So take the opportunity while it lasts and hop around as many European states as you can. Definitely. So I do agree with that. We have another question coming in, and they're asking, what are your thoughts about the Middle East? We don't often hear a lot of Caribbean people going there, focusing on that destination. Your thoughts about that?
I think there's an obvious reason why. There's an obvious reason why so much social, political, and economic unrest in these parts of the world. So I will definitely, I won't recommend some of these Middle Eastern countries for us, Caribbean people to travel to. There are so many other beautiful options that we can visit, and we'd be satisfied in visiting. but I think most persons, if they have to travel to the Middle East, would be for, work or some particular and specific reason. I don't think a Caribbean person will just wake up one day and say, hey, let's just go to the Middle East. So that is definitely my views and thoughts around travel for
That I respect those views. I do see the concern about the challenges that may exist in the Middle East, but I want to be a bit ticklish and advocate a bit for the Middle East, because I have been to the Middle East, and
right.
I have been to, well, Dubai is a top list. That is very
Well, Dubai is
stable.
definitely on the top, yeah.
I think Qatar is on a lot of people's mind after this World
Yes.
Cup, so maybe that might have an increase in visitors coming there. I also went to Jordan. I did Amman City, very central,
Yeah.
very safe, very secure. And I
Okay.
even did land border crossing through Palestine into Israel. And that was a very interesting experience.
That's interesting, very
interesting. I know my family were a bit worried and concerned when I told them I'm going to land border
Exactly.
cross, but I did it along one of the regulated areas that is really safe and do have that international thoroughfare of traffic daily. So
Right.
that was a safe day for me. But yes, my day on the West Bank was safe on that day. But I do share your concerns about some of those regions. You have to monitor.
Yeah.
You definitely
Yeah,
have
what I can recommend or advise to the tourism ministries or boards in these parts of the world is, once they're, you talk about the Qatar, you talk about Dubai, their economies are very stable and safe and secure, right? They can now do let's say targeted marketing for their tourism destination to the Caribbean. So it's basically ensuring that, okay, persons coming from the Caribbean region may have that level and that sense of security coming into those countries, maybe on if it's like a Caribbean tour or Caribbean nationals tour in these. So that way the beginning of the trip to the ending of the trip is planned, and we know exactly what we're going to do, what we're going to get involved in, and we get back home safely.
I agree. I think that is a really good, strong recommendation to go forward with. We have another question coming in from social media, and this one says, I'm a woman traveler, so female, and I'm just wondering, what are your top advice for us in terms of safety? Because I know women traveling alone is always a red flag. I love solo traveling by myself, but I know a lot of people, they raise their eyebrows. You're a woman, you're Black, you're traveling all by yourself. What's up with that? What are your advice?
I think a lot of us, we like to go out on these solo trips, and sometimes it's good for us to recenter and get our peace back in. I do recommend traveling with friends and family, but if we do go out on these solo trips, you would want to ensure that someone, whether it's your close friend or your family, know exactly where you are going to, know your itinerary, right? So before you leave home, let someone be aware of your itinerary. So in the event that, God forbid, if something happens and they don't see you come back by the 14th, they'll know, okay, let's start calling, let's start, checking out what's happening here. Also, do your research. Any country, whether it's Middle East, whether it's Europe, whether it's Caribbean, any country you are visiting, make sure and thoroughly research that country. Know where areas that you can go, areas that you're not allowed to go in, the customs, the norms, the values of that country, research that. And I think that's one of the biggest thing, is to research. Also, plan ahead and make sure you have an itinerary of what you want to do, right? So if it is you're going for 5 days and you want to stay on the resort for 5 days, that's all up to you. If you want to venture out and do some of the museums, more of the touristic activities, make sure you have that planned out, so it won't be, and make sure you know where you're getting your taxi, how you're going to get the local currency. All these different type of things have to happen before you actually, get into the country and start exploring, have an idea of what you want to do and how you're going to do it.
I think those are really, really good advice. I think for anyone, definitely letting your loved ones know where you are is always important. And you always try to check in at home when you can. And definitely research, research, research. I think. And then this social media and just the internet is just so wide with information that's available, but you definitely need to
Yeah.
screen the information. Make sure you're
Yes.
getting your correct source. I know most countries will have like a tourism authority or a travel authority
Yes.
that you can get really valuable information that is being screened, that is credible, that you know that you're doing the right things, you're booking the
Yeah.
right places, and you're really engaging in the right sort of tourism that may exist in the country at the point in time.
Yeah.
So we've been
Agree.
talking a lot about traveling. And sometimes, not sometimes, most times, people believe traveling is so expensive, especially in the Caribbean. It could be
Yes.
so expensive. So, do you have any tips or tricks for us to share, especially when you want to travel on a budget? Because it's
Yes,
real hard to convert my little local currency to foreign currency to travel. So I need those
exactly.
tricks.
So yes, travel can be expensive, and I will say if you do not plan properly, you would feel like it's even more expensive, right? But if you want to travel on a budget, I would say plan in advance. If you're traveling, let's say March of next year, by this time all now you should actually know what dates you want to travel at, which country you want to travel at, and you do that fine, planning and budgeting. I think if you want to really have a good time, you have to, I would say, maybe 3 months before travel, start budgeting, booking your tickets, start looking at the activities you want to do and the cost of those activities. Start looking at, what is the foreign exchange, what is the dollar for dollar ratio, that type of thing. Start looking at, things you want to do on the Caribbean island or wherever you travel to. So I would definitely say start saving, start budgeting. Don't wait for last minute to actually book the ticket. You'd feel like, okay, it's very expensive, it's too expensive, and you just may not go on that trip. Also, I would say check out websites such as Skyscanner, Google Flights, and Price Tracker, because these websites are, you get some of the cheapest flights, and you get to also compare with the different dates. So sometimes traveling on a Monday might be more expensive or less expensive than traveling over the weekend. So Google Flights and some of these um, other websites that have bookings would, basically show you the different days that are cheaper, more economical to travel on. So I would definitely say, look at Google Flights, look at Skyscanner. Also travel smart. Sometimes you land in a country and your go-to app for travel is Uber. But, in some countries, Uber is very expensive, to utilize Uber. So I would say look into some of the local transportation. Sometimes, like for example, in England, they had the bus system. They also had the trains, which was very effective and efficient getting to anywhere, in that country. So I would say look at some of the local transportation systems and, see which one is more cost effective for you. Be flexible in your options for stays, hotel, etc. I say that to say sometimes, we want this luxurious, travel experience and that type of thing. And we spend so much money on booking a hotel, right? And then the majority of the time, you're not actually in the hotel. You're going out to do to the water parks, to do water activities, or you're going out to eat, you're going out to the museums, and you're not actually spending, the majority of your time in the hotel. So I would say, be a little more cost effective on your hotel, because you just want a place to put your head in the night, right? Be more cost effective on your hotel and spend all your money, actually splurge on the different activities, food. I never chinks, on food. I love to eat good. I love to eat nice, so I actually spend a lot more money on food and some of the touristic activities in these countries.
I appreciate those advice. I think those are really, really helpful advice. I appreciate it. So there are other questions coming in. One question is there any specific country in your opinion that you think have really increased their tourism game within maybe the last year or two coming out of COVID? And what are some destinations that you think are really, they need more work and they're not as well as we boast them to be?
Right. So during COVID, I had like a no fly, no flying. So I did no flying during COVID. And I think Barbados, just based on what I was hearing during COVID and coming out of COVID, Barbados was one of the countries that actually, had incentives for persons traveling in their country. So I don't know if you all know what is a digital nomad. Basically Barbados gave, leniencies to, sorry about that. Barbados gave leniencies to persons who wanted to come into Barbados to actually set up their base there, to live and to work out of Barbados. So there was some lifting of restrictions there. So I think that's one way of increasing the attractiveness of the country and getting more tourists to actually, come to the shores of that particular country. I know places like St. Lucia, Turks and Caicos, they are all heavily dependent on travel. So I am assuming, that they too are up, up in the ante when it comes to, their country being a preferred travel destination.
I do agree that I definitely saw a lot of remote work programs being developed during COVID, and many have been sustained post-COVID. I actually have a friend who's currently working remotely, and he's actually enjoying his time in Colombia, living as a digital nomad currently, and it works really well for him.
Yeah.
So that is good. I want to ask another question. Is there any particular, you're saying that sometimes you don't need to spend too much money on the hotels, but is there a preference, hotels versus Airbnb versus, I don't know, finding your bookings somewhere else? Like, how does it work and what do you recommend?
I think for Airbnb, in some locations, you get a lot more bang for your buck. In that you get sometimes like a whole villa, maybe 2 bedrooms, it's very clean and nice, and it's a lot more in some cases more economical than booking a larger hotel, or even a brand name hotel as well, so I would say try to do as much more Airbnb, especially if you're traveling in groups.
I agree. Airbnb, if you're in a budget or you're in groups, I think that is good. So what are your thoughts generally about tourism in the Caribbean? Now that we are coming out of COVID, what exactly you think should be our Caribbean tourism product? Where should the focus be? Where should be the drive and the innovation within this region to ensure that we have more persons, one, moving within the region, and then also external visitors coming into the region?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. And I would say that the tourism industry is a vital industry to many of the Caribbean islands, as it contributes to their gross domestic product. For example, as I mentioned before, countries like St. Lucia, Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, Barbados, they survive on a tourism, based economy, even, just having it maybe as a tertiary income as well too. However, there are impediments to countries really refining their tourism industry and their tourism product. And I say that to say is that in their countries, because some of these Caribbean countries and islands are prone to natural disasters, sometimes, when a natural disaster do occur, it sets them back. And, they now have to, instead of improving or developing, some of them have to rebuild to, get back to that place they were before a natural disaster strike, right? And again, the industry supports the livelihoods of so many families, and that is something that is, worth building, worth developing, and improving and investing in. I do believe we live in a digital and technological age, and tourism should develop further to include these advancements, right? Also, I think the conversation around tourism should now be about how do we implement innovative and technological driven solutions and ideas to further attract more dollars into the economy. So, like I said, these economies dependent on tourism. So now they have to move with the times, look at what advancements are currently happening and how it is they can implement and integrate this within their tourism product. When it comes to the tourism product, I think, the tourism product is what the country has to offer culturally, in terms of our food, our events, our festivities, our culture. That is the Caribbean product for any island. What it is you have to offer persons coming into your country, right? So I would say, again, seeing where innovation and technology is moving right now, our ministers of tourism, the ministries need to have that foresight and that vision of integrating technology into what we call our tourism product.
I definitely agree with that. I do agree that the tourism product needs to shift a little bit to embrace the new technology, the new skills, what is happening in the industry all around the world. There are a lot of tourists that are now conscious as it relates to the environment. So they want smarter hotel rooms, they want to have clean things. Then you need to cater for the traveler. Yes, people want to take a relaxation time away from work, but they still want the opportunity to connect while they are on vacation. So you need to have that Wi-Fi facility there. Definitely. And that opportunity to really share information and data and grow within the industry. So I do agree with all the points that you raised, that definitely once our tourism dependent countries really decide to look at what's happening globally and pattern to see what is best adaptable within the region, that will definitely help solidify our tourism product. So you mentioned the opportunities, but are there any challenges that is really bugging you about the tourism products right now? And what is the recommendation for that challenge that you want to highlight right now? If you need to call out one challenge that you're seeing within the tourism industry, especially in the Caribbean, and it needs to be fixed immediately, what would it be?
So I would say, and I'll give this experience of when I visited England. So when I visited England, you see transportation, Latoya, the transportation system in England is effective, it is efficient, and you get to your destinations wherever, which part of the country you want to you get to there efficiently and effectively. And I think what will aid our tourism industry is a proper transportation system, right? I know we have, like, for example, in Trinidad, I know we have our public service or public transportation systems, the buses and stuff like that. But as a tourist coming in, they may not know how to navigate certain, public transportation system. But I don't know, just to make it a lot more easier for tourist activities to happen within the island. So I think for me, just experiencing that over there, I would love to have something as efficient and effective in all Caribbean islands. The other point I would make, and this just because I experienced it very recently, is our hospitality in the tourism industry. I know, the tourism industry is one that's supposed to be of cater to, care for. and sometimes, I don't know, based on cultures, based on experiences, based on maybe the mood of the day of that particular individual, you don't always meet that hospitality aspect in the tourism, chain of things. So those are some of the things I think would definitely improve and improve tourism here in the Caribbean.
I do agree with those two picks. I have a pet peeve. Mine is I really want interregional travel to be cheaper. I do not know why the flights are so expensive
Yeah.
for a
Mhm.
55-minute flight or hour flight or even 20-minute flight across the islands. And I
Exactly.
think there needs to be a greater effort at somehow balancing act within allowing persons to move within, especially Caribbean, the CSME region. I
Yes.
think that is really important. I'm still convinced that the flights are too expensive. Yes, I understand
Hmm.
the airline industry and the challenges that are being faced there. But
Yes.
I don't know if to go around Europe, the flights could be so cheap, then what's wrong with
Why
us in
not
the
in the
region?
Caribbean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we
definitely.
need to figure that out. Definitely, we
Yeah.
need to figure that out. So I'm calling out to the relevant parties at B.
Yes.
I really want to have a reasonable price flight to go visit somebody in Barbados or Bahamas
Yeah.
sometime soon. I think you raised really critical points, Jayme, and I do appreciate the conversation, how it's going, and the issues that have been raised so far. So my next question is, let's go down specifically to the workers in the tourism industry, the stakeholders.
Right.
What direct advice do you have to give the persons in the travel and tourism industry to encourage the growth of the Caribbean tourism?
I think to get that moving and encourage that growth, we need to implement more tourist activities, more things that will attract persons to come to our shows. So, for example, I would say like more event-based tourism. So in Trinidad, we have Caribbean as one of Carnival, sorry, as one of our major activities that really pull in, the foreigners and persons attracted to Carnival and stuff. But outside of Carnival, and this is probably just me not finding anything else, outside of Carnival, I am not sure that there is something else event based that really draws in persons like the way Carnival would draw them in. So that is why I commend Tobago for actually branching out and going out on their own to create their own carnival. So now you have these two pull factors within Trinidad and Tobago that can now pull foreigners, pull visitors, and to boost and improve the tourism industry, because everything that is happening in Trinidad for Carnival, February, March, thereabouts, is now happening at a smaller scale, but it's still moving the economy. It's still bringing in foreign revenues. It's still bringing in persons, to our shore. So I would say look into more event-based tourism and see, what other events, what other attractions we can, implement here for persons to partake of. Also, I talked about innovation and technology being integrated in the tourism chain. I think, again, looking at that and seeing how it is you can make the tourism experience more innovative, more digital. I think more persons will be attracted to islands that have innovation and technology integrated in, along the lines of tourism. And also, to the last point I made on the other question would be training of, staff, hotel staff, persons at the airport who deal directly with foreigners and persons coming in, have that hospitality training element. I think we had a hospitality school at Chagaramas, and it's now closed. So I'm not sure how it is the tourism sector is being bolster when it comes to the training of the professionals in those industries.
Okay. And I agree with those points. I think those are excellent points. We do have another question for social media, and someone is asking, have you discovered any hidden gems as it regards to a specific town or place in a country that you will just want to go back a million times? And what was it? What was the selling point for you? Was it because of the price, the hospitality, the shopping, the scene? Yeah. What was that hidden gem that really made you like so sealed down to that place? Like you just have to go back there, maybe over and over. Encourage you with that repeat visitorship.
Right. So it actually have to be Cuba for me. I've never revisited Cuba, so I've only visited Cuba once, but I always tell myself I will go back to Cuba. And one of the reasons I will go back to Cuba is their markets. I don't know if, Latoya, you have ever been to that big warehouse where they sell all their arts, their artifacts, their crafts, you name it. If it's handmade, it's in that big warehouse. I forgot the name of the market, but it is a gem because, they are so skilled, so talented with their hands. And, any type of item you can think about, they can build it with their hand, out of wood, out of steel. Their clothing and everything is just so beautiful. So, and it's a whole big warehouse filled with all of these things, paintings. So some of those paintings that you may go to maybe the US and get it for all $500,000, you can get it in Cuba for maybe next to nothing, for maybe 100 US. And it's beautiful works that, you see they put forward there. So I will definitely go back to Cuba just for that.
Yes, I do remember that market. I don't remember the name of it, but I also purchased paintings at that market. So yes, definitely reasonably priced, great quality. And I remember too, when you purchased the painting, there was like this office where they give you this document that authorizes that it was purchased at that market.
Yes.
So there's like a tax or a small fee that pays towards maintaining the market. And you get that little slip. So even when you exit in Cuba and you exit with handcraft pieces that they're able to verify that is where you purchase the craft. So yes, I do appreciate that market. I think that is a great gem in Cuba that you can embrace and go back over and over and over again. So we're coming down to the end of 2022. Tell me, what is on your bucket list for this holiday, or even if it's on your 2023 bucket list? Where are some of the places that you would like to go to, and why?
Everywhere. No, I'm just joking. So I'm not doing any more travel for the rest of the year. I just came back from Jamaica. I attended Tech Beach. So that was an amazing tech conference that brought together a lot of our tech entrepreneurs from the Caribbean at that event. So that was amazing. In January, I may be in Suriname. So I'm attending the AGM of CANTO, which is the Caribbean Association of National Telecommunications Organization. And I definitely want to go back to England. So maybe in April, thereabouts, I will be back in England, and I'll do some ping ponging across the, European countries. And in August, I am planning to be in Bali. So hopefully all goes well. Bali will see me in August.
Wow, that is a hefty bucket list. Can't wait to see the photos, can't wait to get the experiences, can't wait to get the feedback from that bucket list. I think that is really exciting, and we wish you definitely all the best.
Thank you so much.
So the last question I have for you, a little bit of fun and humor here.
Yes.
So as a Caribbean person, tell us which one you prefer and why. So question number one, Caribbean Airlines or Liat?
Well, I will go with Caribbean Airlines. I think Liat is not in operation anymore right now. But we all know the drama with Liat. Your bags get left behind, all these different type of things. So I would definitely go Caribbean Airlines.
Okay. I will probably choose Caribbean Airlines also. I have some challenges with them, but for now, I
Yes,
have seen
yes,
improvement in the service. I like the layout of the
definitely.
website, and they have really been upgrading a lot. So yes, I will say
Yeah,
definitely for now, Caribbean Airlines will have to be the number one airline within
right.
the region. As a Caribbean person, do you prefer a rainy day or a sunny day?
Sunny day all the way because I love to go to the beach, and the beach requires a sunny day.
I agree with that too. I definitely agree with that. You could hop around so many Caribbean islands and enjoy the beaches, but you definitely need the sunny day to experience the best of it. So,
Right.
are you a budget traveler or you like splurging?
I think I am a budget traveler. That's the economist in me. I budget everything. I try to get the best activities and the best out of the dollar spent, because I want to experience it all. So I budget everything, while I'm traveling.
I think so too. I am a budget traveler. There are 1 or 2 days I might splurge on a nice
Yeah, the
dinner.
splurge might come with the food. I'll,
Yes,
I'll eat food.
definitely. There's room in the travel for splurging, but
Yes,
generally, I do like to budget and plan my travels wisely. Don't want to be
definitely.
traveling and then next day you just like
You're out of
broke.
money. Yes,
Definitely. And definitely, as you rightfully said, you save and you plan your trips so that you're able to accompany a good budget with it. So, Jayme,
yes.
it was nice chatting with you. Before we wrap up, tell us again, where can we find you to get more travel tips and advice?
Definitely. So you can visit our website, www.hellobeautifulworld.net, or find us on Instagram at hellobeautifulworld365.
Okay, great. That sounds really wonderful. I have to look up you because I need to see where you're going. I need to see what's going on with Bali. I definitely need to see what's going on with Suriname or wherever else you go before the year. Well, the year ends or next year. We definitely need to follow you and learn more about the
Thank
work that you're
you.
doing. So, Jayme, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us on the travel industry, especially what's happening in the Caribbean.
It was
It
a
was really
pleasure.
great having that discussion with you. Joining us this afternoon, you really gave me some ideas about where next to go. I do have some places on my bucket list for this Christmas, so we'll see how that turns out. And best to you on your next vacation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Latoya. It was a pleasure being here today.
Great. Well,
Bye.
viewers, hi, bye, Jayme. That was a healthy conversation with Miss Jayme Hoyte. It was a pleasure definitely chatting with her about traveling. I definitely love to travel, so I enjoyed this conversation a lot, and I hope you did. Do not forget to check out Hello Beautiful World online to get more tips about traveling. So to end this afternoon's show, I would again like to thank our sponsors, Caribbean Insight, for the work that they have been doing to share topical information about the Caribbean as it relates to lifestyle, health, culture, sports, food, current affairs, etc. Check out mycaribbeaninsight.com. LRT's Media and Business Solutions for all your media and consulting and business support needs, especially as it related to this show. And we also have AD Romeo and Associates Consultancy, fostering sustainable development through innovative services worldwide. Definitely do join us next week, Thursday. Next week, Thursday, we are winding down. We're nearly to the end of season 1, but there's still more conversation to go. We will be on episode number 8, and it's all about why should I go digital, where we are focusing on SMEs who may have pivoted, especially during COVID, by increasing their online strategies to enhance their business activities. So do check us out next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. for Why Should I Go Digital. Don't forget to check out all the episodes on the Caribbean Inside Facebook page. If you have missed them, we are now on episode 7. I am your host, Latoya Roberts-Thomas, signing off for this afternoon. I will see you next week, and it was a pleasure discussing with you how to travel around the Caribbean. Do take care.